Is $140,000 the new poverty line? It sounds unbelievable, right? But let's break it down exactly why the number is being talked about.
Remember that there's all types of poverty lines, depending on this construction in your family. So the 32,000, the one that I'm referencing, is a family of 4, 2 workers, 2 children. And when I dug into this, when I actually started doing the analysis on what it costs a family of 4 to survive in today's world, I was really blown away looking at many regions around the country that number appears to be much closer to $140,000, with primary components of that being obviously housing, which has increased dramatically in cost. You ultimately want to have, if you have a family, have children in a relatively safe environment with relatively good schools, etc. That's not something that should be exclusively the province of the rich. But even more important, it turns out, are things like childcare, which historically wouldn't have even been an issue. You would have had family members to do it. A wife would have stayed home. There would have been neighbors where other mothers would have been around to watch after children, or in many ways, children were somewhat self-sufficient. Today, that option really doesn't exist. And so the minute you decide to have a 2-income family, you are entering into a world state in which you need to have childcare. That childcare is extraordinarily expensive. Average cost on a nationwide basis, about $26,000 for 2 children. In the area that I was looking in New Jersey, about an hour outside of New York City, it worked out to $32,000, which in and of itself is enough to exceed the poverty line, according to the U.S. government.
Michael Green is a well-known Wall Street strategist. Recently argued that the realistic poverty threshold for a family of 4 isn't $32K, but closer to $140,000. This jump isn't random. It's based on the fact that the poverty line we still use today was calculated in the 1960s, and it hasn't evolved with how life actually works in 2025. So in the 1960s, the government set the poverty line by calculating the cost of food, which took about 1/3 of household budget, and multiplying it by 3. But today, food is the cheapest part of a family's life. In other words, in 1960, food was one of the most expensive household items. But now, 2025, we all know that's not true. Things have changed. Back then, a family of 4 at the poverty line earned around $3,100 a year. I did not say 31,000. I said 3,100 a year. The equivalent of about 30,000 in today's dollar. Of course, inflation. That's the outdated formula we're still using. So we've been using the same formula since 1960 to date. Today, a family of 4 faces a completely different cost structure. Here's how basic non-luxury expenses stack up in 2025. Housing, between $36,000 to $48K. Childcare, $18,000 to $28,000. Healthcare, $12,000 to $20,000. But if the Congress do not extend the ACA, we all know that the healthcare is going to be above the $12,000 to $20,000 budget. But for the purpose of this, we'll stick to $12,000 to $20,000. Transportation, $10,000 to $15,000. Food, $9,000 to $12,000. Taxes and essentials, $15K to $25K. Remember, the higher you earn, the more the tax bracket. $140,000 before now used to be regarded as someone that earns very well. So the tax bracket for someone that earns that is not going to be that low. The total is estimated to be around 138. Let's approximate it to 140,000 just to survive, not to strive. So here's my take. People's reality in 2025 is nothing like the 1960s. Back then, many homes had one parent staying home, that is, the mom always stay home, no paid childcare, no expensive AC system units, and lower expectations for everyday living. But today, everything costs more, and incomes haven't kept up at all. Inflation has eaten away our currency, and the cost of maintaining a normal life has outpaced wage growth by decades. Do you know that there is a difference between cost of living crisis and a poverty crisis? So which of it are we going through right now? A poverty crisis means people can't meet basic needs. A cost of living crisis means even middle-class household earning $80,000 to about $120,000, even to $150,000, might feel squeezed and unable to keep up. Right now, that's exactly what people are facing. And here's how this ties into multifamily. In short, this is the most important thing I really want to communicate with you. When the cost of living rises faster than wages, ownership becomes out of reach for many families. They rent longer. They seek affordability, they seek stability. This increases demand for well-managed multifamily properties, especially those offering good value.
The affordability crisis comes in as candidly something that I was insulated from by virtue of financial success, but also because of understanding. And so that's one of the reasons, again, why I write my Substack, etc., is to force myself to think in an intellectually curious way about problems that I may not fully understand. This just happened to be one that caught people's attention. And what really is happening with the affordability crisis is that American households are saying, look, my income is 90, my expenses are 100, therefore I'm underwater. Right? And the Federal Reserve is saying, well, wait a second, wages were up 2% last year and prices were only up 2.5%. So you really shouldn't be that upset anymore. We don't have the 6, 7, 8, 9% inflation that was causing this stress. And there's a little bit of truth to that. But if you actually just think about the math behind that, if I currently have income of 90 and expenses of 100 and my wages rise by 2%, right? So that's 1.02 times 90 is going to put me at 91.8. The expenses go up by 2.5%, doesn't seem that crazy, right? But all of a sudden my 100 is now 102.5. And the difference between those two, I'm actually further underwater than I was before. I've made no progress. Yes, inflation has slowed down, but I owe more money this year than I did last year. And I find myself in a worse situation. These people are drowning is what they're telling us. This is the lower end of the K-shaped economy. And they're telling us increasingly that they are stressed and increasingly unproductive because of that stress.
That's why multifamily remains the most resilient and the most needed asset class for today, because in any economy, people always need a safe and affordable place to stay. So if you need more breakdown like this and you want to know how multifamily can protect you from period like this, follow me on all my social media platforms. Bye-bye.